Hello students, in this session we will be learning about corals and ctenophores. Corals are organisms which belong to phylum Cnidaria or Coelenterata. In your previous video session, you have learned about phylum Coelenterata. Phylum Coelenterata consists of organisms which have tissue grade of organization, and these organisms are classified into three classes. Phylum Coelenterata or Cnidaria is classified into, the organisms belonging to this is classified into three classes. Class Hydrozoa, in which you have the forms which are, if you look at the life cycle, the polyp stage will be the dominant stage in the hydrozoans, and the life history will show the medusa form. So all of you must have learnt about the two different forms of the coelenterates, the polyp form and the medusa form. Polyp form is tubular and it is sessile, attached to the substratum, whereas medusa form is a free living form and it is having umbrella shaped body. So the forms which have got polyp as the dominant stage in the life cycle will belong to class Hydrozoa. The forms in which the medusa is the dominant phase of the life cycle belongs to Scyphozoa, and the third one, where generally polyps will reproduce by budding and generally they do not exhibit the medusa stage in the life cycle, belong to class Anthozoa. You have an interesting phenomenon exhibited by these coelenterates. That is, they have got the capacity to build a skeleton of their own, which are generally called as corallite. And many corallites together will form the corallum, or we call it as corals. So these corals are generally built by those forms belonging to Anthozoa. Anthozoans are known to make the corals, whereas few hydrozoan corals also have the capacity to build the corals. So in this video we will learn in detail about the corals. So if you look at the corals, they are generally the polyp forms. The polyps can be either solitary, that is a single polyp will build a coral, or most of the coral building polyps are colonial in nature. So generally these polyps will reproduce by asexual method, that is the method is called as the budding. So because of budding, it forms a colony of polyps which will be living together, and these colonial polyps will build the skeleton. Corals are characterized by the presence of the skeleton. In most of the corals, the skeleton is external in nature, that is outside. It is built outside the body. In some of them, they have skeletal elements present in the soft tissue inside the body, then you call it as internal skeleton. If you feel a coral built by these polyps, it feels like a stone. Some of them are stone-like, some of them are having a leathery consistency. If you feel, it looks like a leather or made up of a protein, so it is called as horny in nature. So either they will be stone-like or they will be leathery in nature. So when the polyps build a coral, you call the entire skeleton also can be called as the coral built by the polyps, the polyp building corals. Now I told you that the corals can be built by both the hydrozoan corals as well as the anthozoan corals. First we will look at some of the hydrozoan corals. In Hydrozoa there is an order. In class Hydrozoa there is an order Hydrocorallina, and these are known to build corals generally built by the colonial polyps, and they secrete exoskeleton made up of calcium and it will be huge. The skeleton produced will be really massive, and these massive calcareous exoskeleton will form the coral. Now, which cells will secrete the calcium? If you look at the polyp, the outer layer epidermis, here some of the cells are modified. These modified cells are called as calicoblastic cells, forming the calicoblastic layer, and it is this calicoblastic layer which secretes calcium to form the coral. Now, in hydrozoan corals, two polyps will be associated, two different types. So, if you look at the polymorphism in coelentrates, basically coelentrates have got two types of forms. One is the polyp form, tubular form. The other is the medusa form, which is a free living form. So, there are modified polyps and modified medusa taking up different functions. So, here if you look at hydrozoan corals, there are two types of polyps. One is called as the gastrozooid, which will be concerned with providing nutrition to the entire colony. The other one is the dactylozooids, which is concerned with providing defense, that is protecting the colony. So this is about the corals belonging to the hydrozoa. And if you look at anthozoan corals, the anthozoan corals, there are two types. One is the octocorallian coral, the other one is the hexacorallian coral. Octocorallian corals are those which will show eightfold symmetry. If you look at the symmetry of the coelentrates, you call it as radial symmetry. That is, if you draw an imaginary line passing through the organism, through the center, in any plane, it can divide into two equal parts. So this is called as radial symmetry. When you do so, if you get 8 equal quadrants, then you call it as eightfold symmetry. It is called as eightfold symmetry, and the corals exhibiting this eightfold symmetry, they are called as octocorallian corals. So in octocorallian corals, they belong to the order Alcyonaceae. So some examples for that is the Alcyonium, which is also called as the dead man's finger. In this case, they have a skeletal element present inside the body in the form of spicules made up of calcium. Other examples for octocorallian corals include Tubipora, Heliopora, and Gorgonacea. Now coming to the second type of coral, which is called as hexacorallian corals under the anthozoan corals, these exhibit six-fold symmetry. If the body can be divided into six equal quadrants, then you call them as hexacorallian corals. These belong to the order Madreporaria, and they are called as stony corals or true corals, because these are the ones which go into the formation of the coral reefs. Examples for this include Favia, Meandrina, Madrepora. Now with this, we shall look at the structure of the polyp which will make the coral. The coral polyp will have a tubular, hollow, cylindrical structure which is attached at the lower end to some sort of a substratum. This is called as the aboral end. The opposite end is free, where it contains a mouth surrounded by tentacles. This free end is called as the oral end. The function of the tentacles is to collect the food. These tentacles can be put out, they are extensible. So when they put out, they will reach out to the food. They'll collect the food and bring it to the mouth, taken into the gastrovascular cavity, and digestion will happen inside. And the tentacles are also armed with special type of cells called as stinging cells or nematocysts. So when there is a prey, these nematocysts will sting the prey and inject a toxic substance. When a toxic substance is injected, the prey will be paralyzed and it is taken into the mouth. The paralyzed prey is taken into the mouth further for the process of digestion. Now if you look at the polyp is made up of two layers. Outer layer is the ectoderm, inner layer is the endoderm. In between the ectoderm and endoderm, there is a supporting layer made up of gelatinous substance called as mesoglia. And the mesoglia is secreted by the cell layers of the body wall, and this mesoglia may contain skeletal elements which is derived and migrated from ectoderm. So you have outer ectoderm, inner endoderm. In between is a gelatinous mesoglia which can contain calcareous material or skeletal elements, and these are derived from the ectoderm. Now when a coral makes when the polyp secretes the skeleton looks like a cup. The skeleton secreted by one single polyp looks like a cup, and this cup shaped skeleton is called as corallite. And when they build the coral, especially in the colonial forms, when many polyps are living together, when they build a coral, this coral can be of different shapes. They may be like as though they have fallen on some object, or they may be plate-like. They may look like a bush. They may look like a solid, massive structure. So each one will look different. And what is the cause for the formation of such different types of corals is the habitat, that is where they live. The second point factor is the variations in the light level, means at what zone the polyp is present depending upon the light penetration zone. If you look at the ocean is very deep and the light enters only to a certain region. Beyond that it will be dark. So depending upon where it is located at the depth of the ocean and the amount of light entering the habitat and also the water current. So all these three will decide the nature of the coral built by these polyps. So that is the habitat, that is the variations in the amount of light which is available, and the movement of the water decides the nature of the coral built by these polyps. Here you can see the structure of a coral polyp which is opened up. So you can see the tubular body. At one end there is mouth surrounded by tentacles. Tentacles are provided with nematocysts. Nematocysts are stinging cells. You can see the outer epidermis and the inner endodermis. Sometimes it is also called as gastrodermis. And you can also see a section of the internal organs where you have the organs which will help in digestion. Then you can also see the coenocerc. This coenocerc is the one which is connecting the different polyps, and when these polyps bud, they are connected to each other. The connection between these polyps is through these coenocerc. Through this coenocerc, the polyps are connected to each other. So when the coral is formed, first it forms a basal plate. What you see on the posterior part, the end of the polyp, the basal plate is formed, from which the wall of the cup will form. The wall of the cup is called as theca. Now here in this diagram you can look at the structure of the coral. If a single polyp makes a skeleton, you call it as a corallite. If you observe this picture, you can see that each corallite is cup-like. From this cup-like structure, you can see there are structures arising from the periphery towards the center. In the first picture, you can see the cup. From the wall of the cup, you can see there are radiating wall-like structure, and the free end of this radiating wall-like structure is fused to form a smaller tubular structure in the center. This tubular structure in the center is called as columella. So if you look at the third picture, you can see in third picture there are two A and B. In the first one, you are seeing the gross picture of the coral. In the second one, you can see that there is a corallite, that is a cup built by a single polyp. From the wall of this, the wall is called as theca. From the wall of this cup arises the septa. You can see the picture of the septa. Then the inner end of the septa, it is fused to form a column-like structure called as columella. So you can see the columella, and it is in this tubular columella that the polyp is sitting. The polyp is sitting inside the columella of the corallite. Now, in the second one, if you see, it is a schematic representation of the coral. You can see the ring-like structure is the wall of the coral, which you call it as theca, from which arises the septa, that is the radial partitions. The septa will fuse on the inner side to form columella. Now the septa will also extend outside the wall of the cup. Now this extension of the septa from the wall to the outer side is called as the costa. So what all you have to remember here is cup-like structure of the corallite, from which arises the septa. Then you have the columella, and the septa which is extending out is called as the costa. So this is the structure of a single corallite. Now this is an another coral which you will be learning in detail. So you can note the difference between the first one and the second one. First one is also colonial. It is made by the colonial polyps. Here each corallite is separate. That is, each corallite has got its own wall in the first one. Example for that will be Astrea, that is star-like coral, where the individual corallite will have its own wall. But if you look at the second one, here, this is also a colonial form, but what happens, the polyps, when they are living inside the corallite, each corallite will not have its own wall. They all become continuous. This is called as the brain coral or meandrina, which we'll be learning in detail in the following slide. Now, I told you that the corals can be built by either one single polyp, you call it as a solitary coral, or it can be built by colonial polyps, then you call it as colonial, or the colony built by the colonial polyps. So what are these corals made up of? They are basically made up of calcium carbonate, which is also called as the limestone. Now there are two basic types of corals. First type is called as the soft coral. Second type is called as the hard coral. First we will see what do you mean by soft coral. As the name says, if you touch, if you feel it, it appears soft. It is flexible, you can bend it. It's not made up of external skeleton. There is no external skeleton. And generally they are colonial polyps which will make the soft coral. Instead of external skeleton, they are made up of skeletal elements which are spiny in nature, made up of calcium carbonate present inside the body, and they are called as sclerites. These sclerites will form an axis, and it is the core which is giving the stability for the coral, like a wood. It forms a wood-like core giving the stability for the coral. It will protect and also support. And generally, these are also made up of a protein which is called as gorgonin. So this forms a skeletal material present inside the body, generally made up of a protein called as gorgonin. And if you look at some true soft corals, they may not have a rigid internal skeleton and they may appear fleshy also. Some are continuously supported with internal skeleton. The soft corals are called as apherma types. Apherma types means they do not go into the process of reef building. When the stony corals will form a mass over the generations, you will see that these corals will continuously build mounds and mounds of corals which are together, forming a sort of huge structure. You call it as coral reef. So generally it is the hard corals which go into the formation of the coral reef, and the soft corals do not enter the formation of the coral reef, so they are called as apherma types. Some examples are the sea fingers or the sea whips, and we will be seeing some more examples in the following slide, which all belong to soft corals. These do not enter the process of formation of coral reef. Generally, the soft corals will show eightfold symmetry, that is, the body can be divided into 8 equal quadrants, and these corals will have a stolonate, that is, the cenosarc is there, and it will be connecting the various polyps. The cenosarc is a sheet connecting the various polyps, and there will be a skeletal element present inside the axis of the cenosarc. You call that as central axial skeleton, which is embedded in the matrix of the cenosarc, and this will support the branching colonial coral. So the soft corals sometimes, they will fall on other objects in the sea. They will encrust on other object. They will form lobes. They may look like tree, or they may look like a whip. And if you look at these branches, the branches are made up of protein, as I already told you, which is a fibrous protein called as gargonin. Along with that, it may also be deposited with calcium. Then you call it as the calcified skeleton. And generally, these polyps are pinnate, means there will be an axis from which the side branches will be given off, and it looks like a branch of a tree. And from these side branches, which are called as pinnate, small structures will arise called as pinnules, and inside this the polyp will be located. So they are made up of gargonin and calcium, which gives support to the skeleton, and some of them look like the branch of a tree, wherein you have a central axis from which side branches are given off called as pinnate, on which pinnules are located. Inside pinnules, corals will be placed. So this is about the soft corals. Now we will see what do you mean by hard coral. Hard coral is the true coral which goes into the formation of coral reef. Since they go into the formation of the process of building the coral reef, they are called as hermatypes. Now polyps of the hard corals will secrete a skeleton which is made up of calcium carbonate, and continuously generations and generations of polyps will deposit the exoskeleton, and over the years it becomes like a rock. And classical example for this is brain coral, which we'll be studying in the coming slide. Now in most of these corals, the corals are associated with another organism. Generally it's an algae. You call them as zooxanthellae. So here there is an association between the coral polyp and the algae, where both of them are benefited and neither of them are harmed. This type of association where both are benefited is called as mutualism. So here in most of the hard corals, you see that there is an association between the coral and the algae, which is called zooxanthellae. Now these zooxanthellae will give the corals different types of colors. If you look at the coral reefs, it looks like a garden in the sea. They are called as forests of the sea because they are so colorful, brilliantly colored, and the colors is because of the presence of these different types of zooxanthellae. Here also, the shape and the appearance of each coral will depend upon the species, then where it is located, that is depth of the ocean, then the movement of the water are some of the factors which will decide the shape as well as the color based on the type of zooxanthellae it is associated with. Now if you look at the stony corals, there is one order, Madreporaria or Scleractinia. So this is a example for the true stony corals which are formed by the polyps belonging to order Madreporaria. There are about 1,000 species which go into the formation of black corals and thorny corals, about 100 species which go to the formation of horny corals, and about 1,200 species which go into the formation of blue corals. Now, stony corals exhibit six-fold symmetry, that is, the body is divided into 6 equal quadrants. Polyps are cylindrical, they will taper at one point, and in some tropical species, the polyps are greatly reduced. It will look like one small stub, just one small projection, and in some, they are fused to give a paddle-like appearance. So they can be polyp-like, they can be stub-like, or they can be paddle-like. So basically, they secrete the exoskeleton, which is made up of a mineral also, and calcium carbonate. So when there is an association of minerals, it can form a argonite or a calcite. So this will be the chemical composition of the corals built by these stony corals. If you look at the tentacles of the corals, in the daytime they are all shrunk. The tentacles are retracted and it looks as though it is one small fleshy mass sitting over there, but during the night time they will spread out. When it spreads out, it looks like a flower, and generally in the night time the tentacles are put out to catch the prey like the planktons or some small organisms. So for this contraction and relaxation of the tentacles, they have got two types of muscles. The longitudinal muscle fibers will contract. By doing so, they will catch the food and take it to the mouth. The circular muscle fibers will help in putting out the tentacles, that is, thrusting the tentacles out. So when they have to contract and when they have to relax, the longitudinal muscle fibers and circular muscle fibers will help in contraction and relaxation of the polyp. The stony corals, which are sitting inside the hard skeleton, the skeleton will give them protection, and also the cnidocytes or the stinging cells which are present on the tentacles will also give the protection. What will the soft corals do? The soft corals, some of them will secrete a toxic substance, and it was found to be terpenoid, and this terpenoid is a toxic substance which will protect the soft corals from the predators. So whenever a prey approaches the polyp, like a copepod or a larva of a fish, so they will exhibit this type of contraction and relaxation. They will sting the prey with the toxic substance and they will consume the prey. So if you look at the shallow water species which are present very close to the beach, or it can be a rocky beach or a sandy beach, where you go you can see some corals there. If you look at the shallow water species, you can find both stony as well as soft corals, and they will be associated with zooxanthellate. And the corals, what the zooxanthellate will do, they are autotrophic. They can make their own food and they are called as autotrophs. So the zooxanthellae will also supplement the polyps with the diet. And when they sting, these polyps, when they sting, that food will be shared by the corals with the zooxanthellae species. That's how they are mutually benefited. Here you can see a beautiful picture of a soft coral, how the tentacles are put out, and you can look at the variation in the color because of the association of the coral polyp with a zooxanthellae. Now, with this we finished the introduction to the corals. Now we will be looking at the species, what you will be doing in your practical class. You will be looking at all these species, and you have to see and appreciate how nicely the corals will make the polyps will make the exoskeleton, and we will look at different examples now. So the classification for all the forms what we will be doing now will be phylum Coelenterata, and most of the corals belong to the class Anthozoa. The first one what we are doing is the Fungia, which belongs to order Madreporiaria. What is special about Fungia? This Fungia is made by a single polyp, so it is a classical example for solitary coral. Solitary coral means made by one single polyp, and it's a marine form. And if you look at the coral, it's like a disc. It resembles the mushroom. Since it resembles the mushroom, it's commonly called as mushroom coral, and it's like a disc, so the corallite is discoid in nature. It may measure from 5 millimeter up to 25 centimeter in diameter. It can become that big. And if you look at the Fungia, it will have the upper surface which is slightly bulged, that is the convex surface. The lower surface has got a slight depression, concave surface. And if you look at the corallite, you will see in the corallite there are number of septa. Like if you look at the wall of the surface of the mushroom, how you can see small radial structures, wall-like structures called septa. Same thing you can observe here also. There are number of septa, and these septa are connected by a calcareous rod-like structure called as synapticula. Now, costa is present outside the wall of the cup. These costa will again join the outer surface of the septa. The wall of the cup is called as theca. It is present on the lower surface. Means you can see the wall on the lower surface, not on the upper surface. On the upper surface you can see the septa connected by synapticula, and on the outer end you can see the costa. Below that you can see the theca, that is the wall of the cup. So if you look at the adult in the living condition, there will be one single large polyp sitting in the center of this coral, which can, and it puts out its tentacle when it has to feed. So the feature for your observation is, if it looks like a mushroom, you will identify that as Fungia or mushroom coral. Here you can see a picture of the Fungia which is sitting on a rocky seashore, and here a closer view of the picture of the Fungia where the septa is so clearly visible, and you can also see the synapticula. So this is the first one, Fungia, example for hard coral, example for solitary coral, and commonly called as Fungia. Scientific name is Fungia, commonly called as mushroom coral. The second one belongs to order Gorgonacea, where we will be studying the first type, Corallium rubrum, which is commonly called as red coral. This is the precious coral which is called as Havala in Kannada, and it's used in making precious jewelry. If you look at the colony of the Corallium rubrum, it's a colonial form. It can grow up to 1 meter in height. It is branched. If you look at the colony, there are number of branches. They are erect, attached to the rocky sea bottom. It is present on the lower bottom of the sea where the rocks are there. It is attached to the rocks and it stands straight on the rocky sea bottom. The skeleton of this is made up of spicules, which are all separate, and the spicule is embedded inside the coenosarc, and here there is a deposition of calcium carbonate, and also there are pigments, carotenoid pigments, there is oxide of iron and gelatin. It is these which will give the color to the Corallium rubrum, and it appears red in color because of the pigments and the oxide of iron. There is an axial rod which is made up of limestone, and this axial rod will extend throughout the colony. It forms the colony, and throughout the colony there is the axial rod, and basically the axial rod is made up of limestone. So this is the skeleton of the Corallium rubrum. In the picture we will be looking at that. And as I told you, they'll remove the polyps from this skeleton. They will take the skeleton, dry it out, and from the dried twigs they will cut it, and they will make the precious red coral which is used in making jewelry. So if you look at the diagrammatic representation of the Corallium rubrum, you can see how the colony is erect and how it is branching. Then there is the coenosarc, and this coenosarc, inside that the skeletal elements made up of calcium carbonate is deposited, along with oxides of iron and pigments also is embedded in this skeleton. And this colony will have two types of zooid. The first type is called as autozooid or anthocodia, which is concerned with the procuring of the food and digesting the food and supplying the food to all other members of the colony. And they will have a short polyp-like body attached to the coenosarc. Free end will have mouth surrounded by tentacles, and there are generally 8 tentacles which are pinnate in nature. They will also have mesenteries and gonads for the purpose of reproduction. The first type of zooid, autozooid, which is having 8 pinnate tentacles and responsible for nutrition of the colony. The second type of zooid is called as siphonozoid. Siphonozoid will not have tentacles. Instead, they have got large cilia. This cilia is help in beating and maintaining a water current. It creates a water current, it maintains a water current. The water current brings in the food, and that food will be picked up by the tentacles of the autozooid, and the siphonozoids are responsible for bringing in the water current. So you can see here both the types of zooids present on the Corallium rubrum. So here is a picture of Corallium rubrum. There are 2 pictures. On the left side you are seeing the dried skeleton of the Corallium rubrum where the polyps are removed, and this will be processed and cut to make the precious red coral. On the right side you are seeing the picture of a live Corallium rubrum. You can see those colored polyps where you can see the tentacles which are put out, the autozooid tentacles which are put out. So this is a picture of live Corallium rubrum. So this is the one type. The identifying feature in this is you can see red skeleton and upright colonial branching skeleton. We will identify that as Corallium rubrum. Now the next one, what we will be doing is the Meandrina or Meandra or brain coral, which we looked at the picture previously, which belongs to the order Padriporaria. This is also a marine form. It is a true stony coral. It resembles the human brain, so it is called as brain coral. If you look at the mass of the coral, it is a huge coral which is built by several generations of polyps. So one polyp will reproduce asexually by budding, That again reproduces by budding. Like this, generations after generations, the polyps will bud, and the coral is built around each polyp, and it becomes a huge mass over several generations. If you look at the surface of this colony, you will see that there are long curved grooves. These grooves will run parallel to each other, and they resemble the folds of the human brain, which is called as the convolutions. So the folds of the human brain, that is the convolutions, the surface of the colony is divided into number of grooves which are running parallel to each other, resembling the folds of the human brain. So it is called as the brain coral. If you look at the brain coral, you will see the polyps are present lying inside these grooves. Between two corals, there is no wall separating them, so they all become mingled. They are all very closely set, and they all are together. This type of arrangement is called as confluent polyps, where the polyps are present one next to the other, and in living conditions, when they put out the tentacles, it looks like on either side of the groove the tentacles are swaying in the water. So they will contract, the tentacles will contract during the daytime, and during the night time it will be put out. So these are some of the points what you'll have to observe these characters in the specimen. Here there are 4 pictures. The first 2 are showing the entire structure of the Meandrina or the brain coral. The third one is showing the parallel grooves which are not separated by the theca, that is the wall where the polyps will become confluent. The fourth one, you will see the schematic representation of the brain coral. This is how you will have to draw the picture in your records. The next one belongs to order Gorgonacea. Its scientific name is Gorgonia. It's commonly called as sea fan. This is marine. It's sedentary, attached to a substratum. It is an example for colonial soft coral. There is a basal plate with which it is attached to the substratum. From this, it gives out branches. Characteristic feature of Gorgonia is the branching will happen in one plane only. It looks like your hand fingers going up like that in one plane, because it goes up like in one plane, and it has got a small plate with which it is attached to the substratum. If you hold it, it looks like the hand fan. So you people must have seen the hand fan where used by people in summer. Some people do use these hand fans for fanning. So since it resembles the hand fan, it is called as sea fan. So characteristic feature: sedentary, colonial, soft coral, fixed with basal plate, branches arising in one plane. If you look at the branches are connected to each other, forming a sort of meshwork. This is another important feature. And inside these mesh, you will have number of small polyps which are called as anthocodia. These polyps can retract, and these polyps are present in rows on the 2 sides of the stem or the branches. The skeleton of this Gorgonia is made up of an axial rod, and it will branch out, and it is made up of the proteinaceous substance called as gorgonin in addition with calcium. So the skeleton is supported by gorgonin and calcite. So this skeleton is present in the form of spicules, and these spicules are embedded in the coenosarc. In the coenosarc, again here like any other coelentrates, they will have 2 body layers, that is the ectoderm and the endoderm. In between there is mesoglia, and the spicules will be embedded in the mesoglia. This is the picture. The first one is the diagrammatic representation of Gorgonia. The second one is the picture of a gorgonin where it's a dead skeleton. The polyps are fallen off. You can see the basal plate from which the branching arises. The branches is in one plane and the branches are all interconnected to form the meshwork. And on the left side in the diagrammatic representation, you can see there are polyps sitting inside the meshes. So this looks like a fan, so it is commonly called a sea fan. Identifying feature is branching in one plane and there is a basal plate. Now the next one, what you will be seeing is the pennatula, which is also called as sea feather or sea pen, which belongs to the order Pennatulaceae. This is sedentary. Again, it's attached to the substratum. It is colonial, actinozoan, found in the deep sea. Here, the body is divided into the first part. You call it as the proximal region, the stalk or the peduncle. Here, there is no anthocodia. This will give out to the upper part, which is called as the rachis, that is called as the distal part. The first part is called as the proximal part, where you have the stalk or the peduncle. The next part is called as the distal part, which is the rachis, and it is on the rachis the polyps are present. On the peduncle, it is just like a stem, nothing is there. On the rachis, you have the polyps. Now, if you look at the colony, the peduncle has a bulb-like structure. It is called as end bulb, with which it is attached to the substratum. Anteriorly, there is rachis, and this rachis or rachis will give out lateral fleshy branches. These lateral branches, which are fleshy in nature, are called as pinnules. Here, there will be a series of 8 to 12 gastrozooid. These gastrozooids are nutritive polyps, and all of them will bear tentacles, which are 8 in number. So you call them as 8 pinnate tentacles. And each leaf will have single row of anthocodia. And if you look at the entire leaf, the one which is to the extreme end, that is the outermost region, is occupied by the oldest polyp, and the youngest polyp will be present towards the central axial region. The skeleton of this is horny in nature. It is a proteinaceous substance. There is a axis. This axis will support the rachis. The gastrozooids are the feeding zooids, that is one type which will take care of the nutrition of the entire colony, the gastrozooids. The second types of polyp is siphonozoids, which will draw water current. They have got siphonoglyphs, and these zooids will maintain the water current. Here the sexes are separate and gametes are produced by the gastrozooids for the purpose of reproduction. So here there are two pictures. The first one is the diagrammatic representation of the pennatula. The second one is the picture of the pennatula. You can see the lower peduncle where there are no polyps, that is the proximal part. The distal part is the rachis, and from the rachis arises the lateral branches, that is the pinnules, on which gastrozooids and siphonozoids will be located. Since it resembles the feather, it's called a sea feather, or in olden days such feathers they were used for writing, so you call it a sea pen. So with this we completed the different types of corals. Here there is a beautiful picture where you can see how the corals will form the reefs. You can see the coral reefs in between. You can also find some solitary corals, and this is the place where there is a very rich biodiversity, and you can see many organisms, invertebrates as well as vertebrates. It becomes a habitat for various organisms, and it is a rich biodiversity area, and people are posing threat for this, but if you maintain them, it's a hotspot of biodiversity in the sea. It's like a forest in the sea. So with this we completed the corals. The one last part what we have to do is the ctenophores. So some people consider it as a separate phylum. So some according to one type of classification. So we are going to do Pleurobrachia. The scientific name is Pleurobrachia. Common name is sea walnut, which belongs to phylum Ctenophora, class Tentaculata, and order Cydipida. Because it has got tentacles, it belongs to Tentaculata, and there is a Cydipid larva, it belongs to Cydipida. So if you look at the Pleurobrachia, the characteristic feature of ctenophores, we will be seeing some of the important characteristic features of ctenophore. If you look at the habitat of the Pleurobrachia, it's a marine form, it's a pelagic form found floating in the surface water. Sometimes it may also show variations which occupies different types of habitats. It's planktonic, floating on the surface, and generally found near the shores. If you look at the shape, it looks like a walnut or a pear shaped. The body looks like a walnut, so it is called a sea walnut. The walnut will have a pear shaped body. Characteristic feature here is the body is transparent. It measures between 5 to 20 millimeters in diameter. If you look at the animal, there are two poles. The one on the lower region has mouth. You call that as the oral pole. The opposite end is called as the aboral pole, where a sense organ is located called a statocyst. The statocyst will help in balancing the body. The pole where mouth is located is the oral pole on the lower side. The opposite pole is the aboral pole where the sense organ statocyst is located. Now if you look at the body, from the opposite side of the broad end of the body, two long tentacles are put out. And these two long tentacles are provided with lateral branches, and these two tentacles can either be put out or they can be withdrawn and kept inside a sheath called as tentacle sheath. Tentacles can be freely put outside, or it can be withdrawn and kept inside the tentacle sheath. Because of the presence of two long tentacles, though the arrangement of the internal organs is similar to that of coelenterate exhibiting radial symmetry, because of the presence of two tentacles on either side of the body, it gives biradial symmetry, which means you will get two equal halves in only two planes because of the presence of the tentacles. So it exhibits biradial symmetry, which is the characteristic feature of phylum Ctenophora. So the body surface, if you look at, it is divided into 8 quadrants. The 8 quadrants are distinct because of the presence of structures which resembles the comb. So they are called as comb plates. They are also called as meridional bands, which are placed equidistantly from one another in 8 regions. So there are 8 comb plates which are equally distanced between one another present on the surface of the body. If you look at each meridional band, each meridional band is made up of number of transverse rows. If you look at each row, there you will find there are cilia which are fused, and it resembles the comb. Since it resembles the comb, you call it as the comb plate, and since they bear the comb plates, you call them as comb jellies. This is another characteristic feature of Pleurobrachia. One is presence of the tentacles, which gives biradial symmetry, and the other one is presence of comb plates on the body. They are hermaphrodites, so both the male and female organs are present in the same organism. The gonads are there in the meridional gastrovascular canals. The gonads are released, then the development is indirect, wherein there is a larval form in the life cycle. The larval form is called as the cydipid larva. So they exhibit indirect development. So here you can see a picture of the pleurobrachia, and here you can see the schematic representation of pleurobrachia, where you have the lower end where the mouth is there, the aboral end. Oh no. So the diagram is shown upside down. Where the mouth is there, you call it as the oral end. The opposite end is called as the aboral end. Aboral end has got the organ, sensory organ, statocyst. You can see the comb plates, and you can see the two tentacles and the tentacular sheath into which the tentacles can be withdrawn, and the tentacles will give biradial symmetry. So with this we completed the fourth unit of your practical class, that is corals and ctenophora. Thank you, students.